the forbidden Jesus, rebel, mystic, and enemy of Yahweh.
Woke up to a whisper from the void, searching through shadows of chasing truths. The road is long but rewarded by gnosis and good fruits. The Logos leads me home, and this is the divine truth.
You have heard of Jesus the carpenter, Jesus the meek teacher, Jesus the saviour. But what if I told you the historical Jesus was far more radical, so dangerous that both Rome and the priesthood wanted him erased? Not a God-man sent to die for sins, but a mystic, a reformer, a challenger of Yahweh and the temple, rooted in lost Jewish traditions and early Gnostic visions. The story of Jesus begins with a problem. Our sources. The four canonical Gospels were written decades after Jesus' death and reshaped by theology, not history. Here we see Codex Sinaiticus, which is the oldest of the complete New Testament. Here we see Mark 16 ending at verse 8. Mark, the earliest of the four canonical Gospels, ends suddenly on a cliffhanger. No appearance of a risen Jesus, no Great Commission. Those verses were added in later, a century or two later. So what really happened? Even Josephus, a Jewish Roman historian of the 1st century, records Jesus, but the reference is clearly tampered with by early Christians like Eusebius. Josephus called other messianic figures bandits, con men and rebels. If he did write about Jesus, it would not have been very flattering. To understand Jesus, we must enter his world, 1st century Judea, fractured by different Jewish sects, the Pharisees, Sadducees, Herodians, Zealots, Essenes, Samaritan Jews, Hellenistic Jews, and even Canaanite Jews. The Essenes were an ascetic sect linked to the Dead Sea Scrolls, believed in dualism. Some even viewed Yahweh as a lesser god or a demiurge, and worshipped Elyon, the Most High, a survival of an older ancient Canaanite theology. Jesus likely came from a similar reformist or a mystic sect. He rejected the temple, animal sacrifices, and the authority of the Yahwist priesthood. Now in the Gospel of John, Jesus says to the Yahweh high priesthood that you are of your father the devil, implying that they worship their father, their God, who is the devil. Now the Pharisees and Sadducees and Herodians that made up these high priests didn't believe in a devil, which constantly challenged Jesus. But here's the thing, Gnostic Jews did. They believed in a devil or a demiurge figure, or a demiurge in act of rebellion. Now Jesus saw the temple cult not as sacred but predatory. In Matthew 21:12-17, he storms the temple and accuses the priest of being laestes, a Greek word meaning not just pirates and rebels, but also raiders and predators, even sexual exploiters. We find here when the children cry out to him in the temple, Hosanna or save us, they are not ordinary worshippers, Early Jewish traditions speak of temple virgins, young girls raised from the ages of 3 to 14, referred to often as doves, just like Mary, Jesus' mother, who was also regarded in the proto-gospel of James as a temple virgin and a dove in the temple. Now, Jesus' message was to protect the innocent and to challenge sacred abuse, which did happen in these temple complexes, especially outside of Judaism in pagan religions. In Matthew 18.6, Jesus says, in the original Greek, one such possible translation, whoever harms a child should drown themselves with a millstone around their neck, not just a metaphor, but rather a moral indictment. Now, the most authentic and earliest sayings of Jesus are not found in the four canonical Gospels, but rather in the Gospel of Thomas, an ancient mystical Gnostic Christian text, likely predating all of the New Testament. We find in saying 3, Jesus says, the kingdom is within you and outside of you, which matches Jesus' inward teachings. We find in saying 108, and he who drinks from my mouth becomes as I am, or becomes like me. So Jesus here is saying that if you do the deeds that I do, you become like me. You too become a son or daughter of God. A son of God in Hebrew means a human being with a personal spiritual relationship with God, which was also Jesus' message, stating that we are all the sons and daughters of the living Father. Now, this isn't the Jesus of the church doctrine. This is the Jesus of Gnosis, inner knowledge. Salvation comes not through sacrifice, but through awakening. We find Simon Magus, who was baptized by Philip, a disciple of Jesus, who also gives us a glimpse at the early 1st century beginnings of Christianity and the Jesus movement. As he was baptized by Philip, he knew the disciples, being a follower of Philip, a disciple of Jesus. Now, Simon Magus also rescued his partner Helen from a brothel, and like Jesus, he believed Yahweh was a tyrant, a false god, and that above him stood Elyon, the true hidden Father. Now, by the time of Paul's letters emerging, a new Jesus is being built. Divine, sacrificial, death for sins. But here's the twist. These letters may not be from Paul at all. Marcion of Sinaiticus, the first to create or compile a new Christian testament, or Christian canon, around 140 AD. Which only contained 10 letters of Paul and one gospel, the Gospel of Luke, which may be the original Gospel of Luke and even written by Marcion himself or edited by him. Everything else, regarded as Paul's letters, was a later add-in into the church's canon. It was during this time of Marcion a number for Paul's letters was ever first mentioned, which was 10 in total, not recorded until the 2nd century. Marcion's Jesus came not to fulfill Yahweh's law, but to abolish it. Early Christianity may have been originally an anti-Yahwist movement, before being captured by Imperial Rome. So who was Jesus really? Well, let's reconstruct him not from faith, but from history. He was born into a world of temple corruption and sectarian fragmentation, possibly connected to the temple virgins or spiritual orders like the Essenes. He rejected Yahweh's cult of animal sacrifices. He preached inner knowledge, moral purity, and the protection of the innocent. He attacked the priesthood as exploitative predators, lestes. He taught that Elyon was the Most High, not Yahweh. He was crucified by the Romans for sedition, not blasphemy. Later mythologized into a dying, rising saviour by post-Pauline authors. He survived in Gnostic memory as a spirit-possessed revealer of truth. Not God incarnate, but a human who achieved gnosis. Now, the historical Jesus wasn't the founder of Catholicism. He didn't start Christianity as we know it. He was a radical, a mystic, and a protector of the vulnerable. A man whose message threatened power structures and whose memory was remade to serve them. They crucified the rebel, then they canonized the myth. But the truth is still there, buried in forbidden gospels, suppressed sects, and the words of the beautiful, beautiful man they try to silence, the Logos. So thank you for exploring this deep dive with me on the historical Jesus. Please like and subscribe for more forbidden history, and leave a comment. Peace, love, many blessings, and may the Most High always shine upon you.